Hey everyone, today we're considering which survivors would realistically be able to survive each of the killers and their territory, and who in particular may have the best shot, and who could even defeat some of them. This is based on their skill set and past experiences we learn about in the lore. Let's get into it. Trapper is a character who is strategic and sets up an area to defend when hunting. It's going to take someone cautious to survive the Trapper, someone with a keen eye. Jake would be my first pick as a saboteur and survivalist. He would be good at traversing the woods of the Macmillan estate and disarming any traps to escape. Lara Croft I could also see surviving Trapper due to similar reasons, with her surviving far worse situations and withstanding bad injuries and carrying on. Wraith is going to require someone with a very keen eye too, and someone able to detect him and evade his speed. Possibly someone like Tap or maybe Zarina, two people with keen eyes for detail and noticing small things that lead to finding a killer. Both I imagine could evade him well, being able to not only notice but also track his movements and evade him. Billy I could imagine being quite countered by anyone who is just more agile. He can only really move stiffly in straight lines and seems to just get very angry whenever he enters a sprint. Therefore someone who can be calm and composed and easily dodge will best Billy with ease. Possibly Yui with her good reflexes from motor racing. She'd also be able to escape on her bike if she could escape Coldwind Farm. Jill is another character with experience evading big, scary, speedy pursuers. Nurse I could see it being Min as she's mastered the games within the realm, and as Nurse is the most powerful within the trials, it's likely she has the best shot at surviving Nurse, able to maneuver her blinks and learn her patterns. I could also see Meg being a good pick, with her being able to run very quickly and possibly just outpace Nurse despite her blinks. Myers, the obvious choice is Laurie, as she's very knowledgeable about Myers and has already survived him before. It makes a lot of sense that she'd have the best shot. I feel like I don't need to add anyone else in this case, she's the master. Go watch the 2018 Halloween, she prepares. Hag I could see it being Michaela, who would be most likely to survive. The hexes could curse any other survivor, but Michaela has the protection of the boons, which may be the best chance anyone has to withstand the hexes and even counter them. To a lesser extent, we could add in here all of the characters who also have boons, Yuichi, Jonah, and Alan. Yuichi likely has the best shot with his experience of the supernatural with Sadako. Doctor I could see it being someone with a particularly strong mind who'd be able to take on his hallucinations and constant electroshock attacks. Someone maybe with a particularly logical mind, such as Adam or maybe Jonah. Both would be able to possibly reason with what they're seeing as not being real, able to survive and counter his advances the best, and therefore would be able to match the intelligence of the Doctor. Huntress I think I'll go with Jake and Nia, as they're both good at staying hidden and out of sight, able to avoid and evade with ease. Nia is more suited to an urban environment, but I do think she'd do well in a wood too, with her lore mentioning how she's adapted to the realm. Huntress is a character who is going to hit you with a hatchet if she sees you, so the best shot is avoiding her entirely, and if she does see you, being able to effectively use your environment to escape her. So these two have the best shot. Bubba I'm going with Leon. He's a professional at dealing with chainsaws and even styling on chainsaw users with his sick, but ultimately entirely pointless backflips. Freddy would be countered by Sable, as entering her dreams, Freddy would simply see that Sable has a far darker mind, filled with many stories of evil and death. Freddy would be the one in the nightmare. No, but really, Sable could probably resist the evil of Freddy's dreams a little better than most other characters would, with her learning so much about different evils across the world and actively seeking out the unknown. I do think she could survive Freddy better than others, but definitely not defeat him or anything. Pig I could see Ace having a good shot. If he were trapped within a game, even with it being rigged, he would find a way out of it somehow and escape to the shadows. He survived likely many different crime lords who sought him to repay his debts, but they could never do it. I think Ace is too slippery and experienced with worming his way out of things that even if he were captured by Amanda and placed into a rigged trial, he could get out. Clown I actually want to say someone like Ash, who has shown himself to be quite resistant to substances such as Pink F. I think Clown's clouds would do very little against him. And hey, are also pink, so something there maybe. Ash has also survived far worse things such as demons and deadites, and so would have little issue surviving Clown, able to evade him even if his clouds did engulf him. Spirit, I could see it being someone who she hates the least being the most likely to survive her, someone she would simply feel less angered by and compelled to hunt. Therefore I would go with someone that is equally as innocent and young as her, so Claudette or Laurie maybe, someone like that who has some good survival skills, but would also just be less of a target in general for someone like Spirit. If her vision was being manipulated, and all she saw was her father, then maybe someone like Michaela who could use a protection boon of some kind to stop her being haunted. Legion I do think could be bested by a decent amount of the characters, a case where I think lots of people could not only survive, but also defeat the Legion. Stronger characters lore-wise like the Stars members, Ash, and someone like Bill too. I think Bill would be my top pick for surviving them actually, coming in to sort out these rowdy teenagers with ease. He would take them down easily I think, and then sit them down for a lecture and turn their lives around. Plague is tough as it's got to be someone who would be the most likely to simply survive her plague that she carries. I would debate maybe someone like David for this reason, as he already has no mither, and the lore behind this seeming to be the idea that he's often so broken that he's sort of empowered by it in some ways when in this state. Therefore he likely stands a good chance. I also thought from more of a lore perspective that someone like Elodie could stand a good chance with her knowledge of the entity in the Black Veil. She may be able to understand some of what Plague is saying and could even be aware of her, enabling her survival better than most others. Ghostface is going to be a hard one to evade, being persistent and meticulous and likely hunting you even after you think he's gone. I'm honestly not too sure who would be able to survive Ghostface the best. I could imagine someone like Zarina able to study and likely detect him well with her history of researching and locating her father's killer despite it being difficult. She's one of few survivors I think that could detect him persistently. Demogorgon is tough, but I would probably go with someone who simply has the strength or experience to be able to fight back if need be, but also run when the time comes. I think Bill is the best shot here of survival. I think he'd put up his best fight, but would be able to evade the Demogorgon also if he wanted to with his training. Of course there's also the Stranger Things trio of Steve, Nancy and Jonathan, who have experience with Demogorgons and so would definitely stand a better chance than most other survivors. Oni is fast, deadly, and can go into an unstoppable rage. I really don't see any survivor surviving Oni's pursuit, and I think the best chance anyone has is just running. Maybe Yui, as we see in the trailer, could possibly be able to evade him if she could get to her motorbike after leaving the Yamokra state. Maybe someone like Cheryl, who has survived Silent Hill, could get through this horror too, although it is a little different. I'm not too sure honestly. Maybe Ace, with him likely to provoke Oni and make him go into a blind rage and slip away like he always does. Deathslinger is a trained bounty hunter and so would be one of the best at hunting the survivors and denying them survival. I actually think the people with the best shot here are those who could just straight up fight back or dodge his shots well enough to get away. Bill I think could possibly best him, Alucard and maybe some of the Stars crew, and someone like Ash possibly too. Just any of the heavy hitters who could escape his pursuit and fight him back when needed. Because a bit like Ghostface, he's going to be very persistent I think. For Pyramid Head, I think it would likely just be the most innocent characters who would be able to evade him. He is driven mainly by his goal to make a person repent for their guilty feelings, and so someone without those might find it far easier to escape his pursuit, as he's less engaged or driven. So the really innocent characters maybe like Claudette, Laurie, Kate, Adam, and so on would all likely have a good advantage over anyone who holds serious guilt over something from their past, like James had. Blight, I'm going with Claudette as our resident botanist. She may have even been the one to have made the refined serum, as we do know she studied the substance based on her Vigo's pupil outfit. I think she would stand the best chance at resisting the serum's effects and the ongoing pursuit of Blight. Maybe someone like Meg too, purely for her own speed and ability to keep evading Blight. Possibly Yui, as she could just outpace him on her motorbike. I guess for Yui, I keep mentioning her, she could kind of just do that for anyone, I suppose. If she could get her motorbike. Or possibly build one, I suppose, too. Twins, I sort of want to pick the troop, simply because there's two of them, and so the playing field is evened right away. One person can distract each twin, making the whole thing much easier. They're also both experienced bards, explorers, and survivors. I think they could have the best shot at taking on twins. Trickster, it could possibly be Yunjin, with him maybe hesitating to finish her, as he seemingly had a slight struggle with it before before. This could mean she survives easier than most. The others, I could see it just being a number of people who could simply overpower him. Most of the stronger characters I think could take him down quite easily, as he typically would get most of his victims in a vulnerable position before he did anything. Even in the lore he gets nearly beaten by one of them, so any one of these trained people could probably take him down and not just survive, but defeat him too. Nemesis, the obvious answer is Jill, with her literally surviving Nemesis in Resident Evil 3, surviving all his forms and defeating him each time. I could therefore see the other RE characters doing the same, with them also taking on similar threats in their games. It would be tough, however, I think, for anyone else to survive Nemesis, even with great training. Maybe someone more supernatural like Alucard. Pinhead is tough to pick for, but maybe someone who could be deceptive would be able to survive the longest against Pinhead. Possibly Yunjin would be able to distract him, much like what happens in the films, throwing the trail onto someone else for her own self-preservation. Maybe Nicolas Cage too, as an actor, would be able to pretend he's someone else entirely and throw their trail off. A bit of a silly one, but who knows. Artist could be survivable for a decent number of survivors, but the person with the best shot would maybe be someone who brings out her humanity, like Jeff, a fellow artist who managed to not be swayed to the killer side. She may let him go out of pity and her inner humanity, feeling for and relating to him. In a meta sense, maybe Jake, as he has the perk Calm Spirit, and would maybe be able to calm or repel the crows, and even Carmina herself. Sadako is straightforward, I think, with Yoichi clearly having the best skill set. He's been hunted by Sadako for years and studied everything about her and her powers. Although there are others with similar skill sets, none are going to outdo Yoichi's capabilities. Dredge, I'm going to go with Vittorio, as he's someone who has traversed the fog a lot and learnt about many of its secrets. I think due to Dredge being relatively close seemingly to the entity itself, with its fog and likely internal realm of its own, it would make Vittorio one of the most equipped in terms of possibly defeating it, or simply evading it. It's likely near impossible for anyone to realistically evade this thing forever, but I do think Vittorio has the best shot. Wesker, it would likely be Chris and Sheva, with them canonically not only surviving him, but actively defeating him too. They're the two characters with the most experience at countering and taking on Wesker. We could possibly consider Jill too, but she's debatable as she was captured and mind-controlled by him. I could also see Leon taking down Wesker, had they ever met. His RE4 self was able to take down an entire cult alone, so I think Leon could probably take on Wesker, and at a minimum survive him. Knight is a tough one with his guards and hulking armor. Reasonably, it could just be the faster characters here that would be able to evade, although it's going to be hard with the guards' constant pursuit. Possibly the highly trained Stars characters could do it, or maybe just our extremely lucky chosen one, Ash, would be able to fumble his way to survival. This is a really tough one. Maybe the troopers, they could split up Knight from the guard, and one could escape and get away, just with the sacrifice of the other. Skull Merchant, I would say someone able to be stealthy, avoiding her drones and maybe outrunning her. Someone able to stay undetected. I would say someone like Ace potentially, with him maybe getting away purely by his evasion tactics. I could see a character like Jeff possibly, with his use of distortion too. He seems quite capable of literally staying off of a radar and moving past unseen. The best shot at surviving Merchant after all is staying off of that radar. Singularity is a really tough one, with him being a very smart AI, able to likely outsmart any of the survivors. I would say Gabriel, but even he realistically didn't know what to do against Turks, and would have likely died had the entity not taken him. We could possibly go with Ripley, who has dealt with intelligent alien threat before, and would be able to figure out a plan possibly to dispose of Hux. Other than her though, I'm really not too sure if anyone else is equipped. Xenomorph more than likely would just be Ripley, as she's actively survived the Xenomorphs before and done so multiple times. Honestly, I couldn't see many other survivors standing a chance at all. Maybe Leon or Jill, with their experience of BOWs, they could maybe take on something like Xeno, who is fairly similar to some of the creatures found in the Resident Evil universe. Chucky, I sort of think almost anyone could survive him, to be honest. He gets bested by Andy after all in multiple films. All of the survivors in the realm are adults and could likely overpower him fairly easily. Maybe some of the less experienced and normal survivors like Dwight could struggle more, but otherwise I think basically all of them could survive Chucky. Unknown is tough, but possibly someone who does not fear anything, or simply does not believe in the unknown's existence. This is another really tough one. Possibly someone with a very logical mind would simply be able to deny deny its existence, and therefore avoid being a target. Someone like Jone maybe, who could possibly just will it out of existence when chasing him, refusing to believe or picture what it could be. That's a really tough one though, so I'm not too sure. Vecna is tough as he doesn't really have much competition when it comes to the survivors. Power-wise in terms of lore, we could maybe argue Alan Wake, but to be more fun in the sense of surviving his abilities, I would have to go with Hattie. She's faced down lots of supernatural forces, and would be able to utilize her abilities to likely not defeat Vecna, but definitely survive him. Dracula, I would have to simply say either Trevor or his son Alucard, as they both have by far the most experience of dealing with him. Almost every other survivor would really struggle, I imagine, and much like Vecna, it's unlikely anyone would really survive Dracula or his castle. Possibly Hattie again, as she does fight a lot of vampires in her lore, although none are close to the strength of Dracula. Alright, well, that's gonna do it. I do hope you enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts too down below on who would survive each of the killers. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.